Looking for the king of podcasts? You're at the wrong channel. Looking for good ideas for life? You are far from good hands. If you think the listener is always right, you are far from the right place. Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, a rebel by choice. If you want a host that floats between love and madness, then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
What up? Excuse me while I whip this out.
Oh, gnarly!
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
And good evening, friend.
Hi, this is Jeanie Clarke, and you are listening to Crazy Train Radio.
What's up, Doc?
I'll tell you what's up. Based out of Atlantic City, New Jersey, Geek Time Entertainment runs exclusively along with different events in the area to strategize with their partners who will benefit with increased exposure and patron traffic.
Oh, gnarly!
Geek Time Entertainment will work with your event in increasing the event's traffic via social media, radio, and storefront advertisements.
Holy cow!
Also, they will help increase business for your company and event with different sales incentives.
Duh.
Whether your event will be small or even mid-scale, Geek Time Entertainment is the group to work with.
That's what I'm talking about.
Contact them today at geektimeentertainment@gmail.com or facebook.com/geektimeentertainment.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
The book is Through the Shattered Glass. It is done by Miss Jeanie Clarke. The foreword is also done by Mr. Kevin Von Erich. Jeanie, how we doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you, and I'm very grateful for you having me on the show.
Hey, we appreciate it, and thank you for sending over a copy of the book, which you and me know there was a bunch of problems with the mail service.
Amazon.
Yeah. Screw you, U.S. Postal Service. But, you know.
Yeah, well, I hope you had a chance to flick through it at least before the interview.
Yes, I have. Yes, we have.
Okay.
Well, what I was asking before we had that technical problem there, when starting the process of this book, what was it about choosing Kevin Von Erich to do your foreword?
Well, Kevin and I go back quite a ways. I never really worked with Kevin, but I knew him from being friendly with Chris. And because he was really close to Chris, and also I worked for World Class, I just thought he was the perfect person to ask. And obviously he's had a lot of tragedy, and a lot of my book is about addiction. And I just thought that he just came to me, oh my God, I wonder if Kevin would be so kind to do my forward. And I was very, very grateful to him for writing the 5 pages that he wrote. And I was like, wow, that's so cool to have Kevin do the forward. And obviously he was really close to Chris and around Chris when he had a lot of his problems. And and he was a family friend, and he knew Steve as well. And obviously I had a start in the States with World Class, and yeah, I just thought that he was perfect.
Now, do you still talk to Kevin often, or did you have to go through mediums to track him down and ask him?
No, I have Kevin's phone number, and yeah, we, talk here and there. So, I called him up and I personally asked him if he would be able to do a forward, and he said, how can I help? He was very, very gracious, sweet guy.
I've always heard that about Kevin, but it's clear to hear that he was thrilled to be involved somehow, some way, and whatnot.
Yeah,
so,
he really was.
Out in the early spring there. What's the response been so far from what you've heard?
Well, I was quite amazed because, to be honest, when I wrote the book, I really didn't think anybody would read it or remember me. But I think I've got 32 5-star reviews. So the response has been great. People, a few of the people in the industry, have given me really positive feedback. So I didn't honestly think anybody would read it. So it was a therapeutic thing for me to write the book and just get some closure, to be honest. And, also the book for my children and their children will always be around. So it wasn't about anything other than some kind of closure and therapeutic. So I was really, really amazed when I got so many good reviews on it.
Well, obviously you mentioned right there about some of the reaction from those within the industry complimenting you. And I remember one of the first people you mentioned to us directly was Mick Foley giving you a raving review. And you were you were through the roof with such a natural high.
I was, yeah.
When
Such
you said,
a nice
Mick
guy.
Out, as someone who's written several books on his own, that
yeah,
for you to get a
and he said to me, yeah, Mick said to me, he said he was gonna do some work around the house, and he was hoping to get a couple of chapters in before he went to sleep. Just gonna read a chapter or two. And then a little bit later the next day, he messaged me and said he hadn't been asleep all night because he'd read the book in one day. And he said, it was a great book, and he was sad. He said to me, I'm kind of sad that I've read it in a day because now I don't have a really great book to read. And obviously I was smiling all day for that because it's such a good writer himself, so it was a huge compliment that Nick enjoyed the book, yeah.
Exactly. You mentioned there about having this blast for your kids and future generations within your family there. When you were putting the book together and all, and you also mentioned that it was therapeutic, was there any stories that surprised your girls? Because obviously, for those who don't know, Jeanie has 3 daughters, 2 with Steve Austin and 1 with Chris Adams. But as far as the kids are concerned, when they saw the book, was there anything that surprised them about you?
Well, obviously, a couple of the things that I really had kept secret for many, many years. And actually, it was my co-writer, and his name is Bradley Craig. He and I had talked, and he said, well, how did that happen? And then I started to actually, for the first time, talk about some of the moments of despair that, if you've read all the book, you'll know I was really despairing. And some of those things I hadn't told my daughters. I'd told them a lot, though, you know, because they were the ones, when I came out of rehab, I was telling them a lot. But I think I got really, really brave and just thought that people would sometimes not understand how difficult addiction is and how deep and how low you can go. So in order to be inspirational in a way to people that who have addiction problems, sometimes I think, you know, that you can just you know, tell people how bad it is and what you go through, and you know, they get a better understanding of how life is for an addict. But my daughters and I have come much closer now because they know the full story and they actually understand, you know, some of the stuff that they probably didn't know about. So it's actually made us closer and we're more bonded now than ever.
Well, do you, obviously, like I said, well, Chris is no longer with us, and mentioned you were married to Steve Austin for a time there, and he's the father of your two younger girls. Did you have any contact with Steve as far as, hey, I'm doing this book, you know, just to give him a heads up of what may or may not have been in the book?
Yeah, Steve did know I was writing a book. Actually, I did my very first interview with Wrestling Inc., I think it was, and I didn't know he'd watched that, but he actually Steve phoned me up and he said, "Oh, hey, are you excited about your book?" And he's the one who actually asked me, "Did you find it cathartic?" was his actual word, and I said I did, and he said to me, "Man, I did not know how bad of an addict you were." And I was, yeah, well, you know, addicts tend to keep things a bit secret. But he was the first person to actually phone me, and I said, "Well, how did you know that, you know, it was that bad?" He said, "Because I just listened to your interview." So he actually listened to my first interview and he phoned me up straight away. I talked to him about 2 or 3 times in the last month, I think. So yeah, we're very amicable actually. I think people might think that this book is a hit piece, and you know, I haven't been around for a long time, and they might be thinking, "Oh, she's just gonna talk about Steve Austin and this and that." But actually, it wasn't like that at all. It was more. It was a therapeutic process, and you know, I certainly have no access to grind.
No, and as far as Steve's concerned, the parts I skimmed through with the book, it was nothing but loving. It seemed like, at least on my interpretation, loving words of him, and you always seem to speak highly of the man, where he tried to, you know, and obviously when you guys were married, he was starting to hit it big as Stone Cold and all that fun stuff. So he was on the road and everything else, but, you know, I didn't take any malice out of what you said about the man and how your relationship was.
No, that's really not my style, and actually some of the stuff in Atlanta, in WCW, I have a few stories in the book of how he, actually, one of my daughters got ill, and he actually drove for like 7 hours, visited her in the hospital, and then drove back. So he went out of his way to come and visit her when she was unwell. And, you know, obviously we had a great marriage in Atlanta time. Things did, you know, obviously change, and he changed and I changed. But I don't believe there was ever, you know, any really, really bad feeling or intention from each one of us. It's just like there was a lot of pressure on him, and obviously I had postnatal depression and all of that I've written about. And I think Steve and I possibly have a better understanding of what was happening when we didn't communicate all those feelings at the time when we should have had communication, and we didn't. So, you know, it's good now that we can talk about it.
Yeah, and I would think at, this stage of the game, you're both adults, and not to drag any mud there, that if there was anything that needed to be discussed, you guys can be adult and discuss those issues.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure that if one another called each other, about, the kids, obviously one's over in England with you, one's here in the States, you said, without disclosing, that, if one party called the other, in terms of the kids, it's what can we do, it seems like.
Yeah, I think that was also the intention of the book, because, sometimes if, you get the divorce, the children are the ones that tend to be the victims, and there comes a point where you have to say, look, let's try and, be there for these girls. We are their parents, and, anything, resentments you have had at the time of the divorce and stuff is just, you just have to rise above it and move on.
Yeah, and I don't want to harp on the full interview on Steve, but before we move on here, I remember hearing him talk about, I forget which daughter it was, it was one of those, he's on the road hot and heavy, and they exchanged emails and everything, but he happened to call over one day and was talking to one of the girls, and he said, all of a sudden it hit him. He goes, holy shit. She's got a British accent, but she has at the time she had a raspy voice like him, that Southern Texas drawl and all.
That's Kathy, yeah. That's true. That's right. When I came here, she lost her accent. That's true.
Yeah, he was laughing about, kidding about it. He goes, I call and I'm talking to my daughter, and the next thing, holy shit, when I hung up, like it hit him. It was all in good fun.
Well, they were young enough where they, picked up the British accent, and they both have British accents now.
Yeah. But you mentioned, and obviously it's in the book and read about it in the book, but you dealt with addiction. If you don't mind, what was the issue that you dealt with? Was it pills? Was it alcohol? Which direction was it?
Do you know, it happens so sneaky, because in the beginning, because I had this postnatal depression and we had some tax problems, WCW had fired him, but we had this beautiful home we had in Atlanta that I was so happy in. I mean, I was doing gardening and we decorating this home, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have to move now. And Kathy, I was like 8 months pregnant when we moved. We were in the process of moving, and I didn't settle too well in. Excuse me. Actually, the house that Vince McMahon actually bought us, because we had a tax lien, so we'd had a few problems. So I got depressed and lonely, and my addiction started out with prescription drugs, sort of Xanax and anti-anxiety and antidepressants, and then I went on to sleeping pills where I was getting restless, and it just snowballed ever so quickly, and then some harder drugs later on, because as your tolerance grows and you're not really getting well just on your own, then as it grows, you instead of taking 2 a day, it's like you're doubling it, and the next thing you're in this, like a hamster really, on a wheel of not able to get off, and it just gets more and more and more, and then if you try to stop, then you get so ill trying to stop. So mine started with pain pills and Xanax, and then Ambien, and then it went on to some harder drugs as well towards the end, before I went into rehab for 6 months. And it was a long time I was an addict. I'm talking years and years. I was a functioning addict for many years, and then as the addiction got worse, my life became unmanageable, and I started not being able to function anymore. So after coming out of rehab after 6 months, I had a lot of consequences of things that had happened. And one of the things they taught me in rehab was if you write things down, which was something that I was doing in rehab when I was getting my counselling, is always writing down your feelings. Well, I was doing this so much that I thought, well, this I could turn into a book. But it went from pills to harder drugs.
But obviously, like you said, there was consequences for handling your addiction and things, people you may have offended, or your kids, or whatever the case was. Was there any particular relationship that you found most difficult to try to repair or not repair?
No, I always try to repair, but yes, there is one actually. That's my daughter Jade, because there was, she wasn't, very happy, and she chose not to talk to me, unfortunately. And although I've come to accept that might never change, I mean, I'll always love her, but that is unfortunately a relationship that I'm not sure if it's fixable. On her part, it is on mine. I'm not sure if she's wanting to talk to me. It's very sad.
Yeah, but how did the other two, Stephanie and Cassie, deal with that?
I'm very, very close to Stephanie and Cassie, and they were always there for me, always. They might have been angry, and they might have been confused, and I'm holding my hand up and saying, it's not a good feeling for me. I have a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. However, when you're an addict, it's not like you intend to hurt people, but not only is an addict hurting themselves, they will hurt everybody around them, so
now,
we had a lot of...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, we had a lot of distrust for a while, but we've had to, talk about it, and we're all right. Stephanie and Cassie and I are very, very close.
Well, were they involved? And, luckily I've never had an issue. I know a couple of people who had addiction issues, but not close enough where I was involved firsthand. But as far as the rehab process goes, if you don't mind discussing it, were they involved in terms of getting counseled as well to learn what they could do to help or not help, and as far as your recovery?
Yeah, the rehab do talk to the children, and sometimes you can have a mediator. They were the ones that actually called the rehab for me. They knew I needed help. I told them I needed help. I had been hiding my addiction, but then I just admitted, look, I'm hitting rock bottom. I knew I was going to die. I mean, I had lost so much weight. I looked awful. I mean, I sometimes didn't even have the strength to take a shower. It's not a very cool thing to be saying, but this is what will happen in the later stages of addiction. And this is when you're taking more than you should, your tolerance, and it would only taking a little bit more and you will die, or you'll end up in jail, or something bad will happen. And I knew that I had to tell them. So I knocked on the door of their room and I told them, and they called the rehab. But the rehab does help the families or educate them, and sometimes shit has to hit the fan, and then you come back up and you have an understanding of it, of how bad the addiction takes you down really quickly.
Do you remember that rock bottom moment where you decided to have to wave the white flag and say, I need to get this addressed?
Yes, it was Christmas Day, and such a happy day for us. When, growing up, we would always have a great Christmas, and I couldn't eat Christmas dinner. I couldn't cook. I could barely walk. I mean, if I'm honest, and I just said, I looked in the mirror and I'm going to die and I can't do this anymore. I just said, I'll do anything, just anything, but I need help. And that was Christmas Day, 3 years ago.
And
sorry, it was 2.5 years. Yeah.
Well, since rehab and everything else, do you still do like NA meetings or anything? Do you try to, I guess, keep your toolbox in check to?
Well,
on a positive side of things.
Okay. I'm not, to be honest, and I think each to their own on this. I'm not a 12-stepper. The 12-step program, I think, works for some people if they go with that. I mean, I have a conflict of, I'm a Christian, and some of the, without getting too deep into this, I think they conflict, because the 12 steps is what they call a spiritual program, it's just like a God of your understanding, and without, going too deep into it, I personally found it to be a bit of a conflict. But I've been clean now for coming on 3 years, and I still write things down, but I don't actually attend 12-step meetings.
But hey, if writing stuff down, keeping your feelings, just some things you learned along the way in rehab work for you. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, there is that's the part of the rehab that I learned. That's the one thing I do is write things down, or I do have a counsellor that I have if I need to talk to someone, and but I certainly don't have any desires to ever use drugs, and I'm actually looking for a house right now, so everything is all positive at the moment. Yeah,
well,
so I'm going to Charlotte next week for the Fan Fest. It's my first time back in the States for 14 years. So Cassie's coming with me, and we're really excited.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Do you plan on doing several dates in the States at all besides Charlotte?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll do, quite a few while I still can, while the book is fresh. It's nice to get out and reconnect with the fans. I get a lot of support from the fans, actually, and I just love them. I think they're always there if you need someone to talk to as well. So, yeah.
Well,
I'm excited about that.
We know you're pretty active on the social media front there, that's for sure. And, seeing people, I was actually on the Facebook page for the book itself and reading some of the comments on there about people saying, hey, I just got my book. A lot of fans were showing their love, it seemed like, as far as the book's concerned. So that was awesome to see.
Yeah. They write to me and they say, oh, I'm on chapter 1 and this and that and chapter 2, and I was just so happy that they're reading it at all and also enjoying it. And I've, been like amazed by the reviews, and I think most of the people, say that they can see it's just an honest account of my life through the pro wrestling industry, which started when I was 19. It's been a long time. I'm not on air role, but I've been around the industry since I was 19 in England, and it's just great to write all this stuff down and people actually reading it. It's just amazing.
Has there been anything as far as fan reaction so far that's really surprised you that you didn't think would happen?
Any what? Excuse me.
Fan reaction. Was there anything that has surprised you yet so far? Like anybody particular stories or anything like that?
The reaction is they didn't really know. I mean, I think there's sometimes, you know, people might think, well, who is she? Some chick who married Steve Austin, but fans will say to me, well, we didn't know that you started work in the UK for World of Sport, which is back in the late 70s. And, you know, and I came to the States with Chris and they learn, they don't know. They think I just started a brief angle in World Class and a little stint in WCW, and they don't know sort of what was going on. You know, because I went through several territories as well with Chris, just up to Portland and stuff like that. So Florida, and so I've been around the business for many, many years, and I think fans didn't know that. So yeah, but I get a lot of feedback. They, I didn't know that, you know, stuff like that. So it's good.
Well, you know, obviously you mentioned about your getting started at an early age in England for World of Sport and all that. What's the biggest difference you noticed between how they conduct business in the States versus over in the UK there?
Well, it was more of a sport here in the UK. Obviously, they had rounds like in boxing, and I noticed it was more like a soap opera, if you want. When I went to World Class, you know, I remember Chris coaching me and saying, "Go watch Dynasty and look at John Collins. I want you to be like that." And he, you know, whereas in the UK it's just all sport. You know, there's no sort of storyline per se, but it's different. But I loved both of them.
Well, for what you did, and some can debate whether it's a valet or a manager or whatever the case may be, did you find things that you can use on either side of the business, depending on where you were at, whether it was in the States or in the UK?
Did I find what? Excuse me?
Was there anything that you find or that you found that could be used on both sides of the spectrum? Where, like you said, in the States there's more of a soap opera feeling to it, where in the UK they treat it more like a sport with the rounds and whatnot.
Yeah, and I wasn't actually a valet in what they called me a second, like in the boxing. And what I would do, I didn't interfere in the matches or talk. I just got in and, like in a second in boxing, just give Chris water and rub him down, and you know the crowd would just sort of whistle and stuff like that. And so there wasn't any sort of female interference. So when I got to World Class, it was like barbed wire matches and hairspray and kendo stick matches and all that stuff. So yeah, it was different. There's a lot of fun in the States compared actually. And
I've heard things like Gucci purses and all used. You know.
Yeah, take your hairspray and your brass nuts and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crap.
Awesome memories. Loved it.
Well, you know, the one thing I was interested in learning about you, which was you tend to have more injuries involved with World Class than WCW, which one might not think, oh, she got injured? Well, you know, guess what? Stuff happens around the ring. Would you agree with that, or care to elaborate?
Yeah, I did get injuries in World Class. I mean, one was a spot show, and Steve actually came off the top rope and landed on me, and I couldn't walk for about 6 weeks. And another time, Chris told me to pick up like the iron bar that you use to hit the bell, and he showed me a way to hit with it, and actually broke my hand. And but they had me taking bumps in WCW, and when I came back after the match, Dusty wouldn't say, "Are you okay? Okay, you're limping," but I was totally not hurt. in WCW. I was just selling it, but I didn't get too bad injuries. I got those 2 injuries just in world class for the little bit of time I was there. And I'm not even a wrestler, so, I'm sure a lot of the guys, do feel a lot of pain and stuff.
Yeah, especially
from
you
the
mentioned in the book about, like, people don't realize how much goes into the travel alone. Like you were just saying about, you were breaking it down saying, hey, show don't end till late. By the time we get something to eat and get to the hotel, it's, close to midnight.
Yeah, and I'm a female who isn't even wrestling, so you could double that. I mean, for the guys, and I found it difficult, hardly any time doing it, just tired. If they put the flights, 6 a.m. flight, you still have to get to the airport at 4, and then when you get off the flight, you've got to get your rent-a-car and check in a hotel, and then they want to go to the gym, and then you get to the arena, and then by the time you get back, it's midnight, and then you have to get up at 4, and after you do that for a while, it's, very, very draining, the schedule was.
Well, obviously, being a parent again here, and you kind of, trickled off after WCW, though. But as far as going home, did you find, towards the tail end there, did you find that you had to try to be super mom to Jade and to then Stephanie and whatnot? And same with Steve, it's like when you're on the road constant without your kids, then when you get home, you got to try to make up for that lost time.
Well, yeah, I never worked after Stephanie was born, and matter of fact, I was getting sick on the road in WCW, just feeling a bit sick, and I found out that I think it was the last match was Halloween Havoc, and Steve was wrestling Dustin, and I was pregnant in that match, and I didn't take any bumps or anything, and I knew then that was actually going to be pretty much my last match. But as for Jade, yes, and I can understand how she must have felt, because when I was with WCW, I had a nanny, and it's true, because the day or two you get off, and then bearing in mind you've got to pay your bills and do all your washing and catch up with all sorts of stuff, and I would imagine it is really hard on the kids, the wrestling kids, be it their dad on the road or their mum, and obviously when I had Stephanie and then I had the 2 kids at home, then I was very happy being a stay-at-home mum, very, very happy. Some of the happiest years of my life were just after I came out of WCW, and then of course Cassidy came along 4 years later, and I never would have, thought about going back into the industry with 3 kids. So I do understand, how it might be hard for the guys to be away from their kids whilst they're on the road.
Yeah. Well, and to bring him up again, Steve, when he came home, what did he find it hard that having to play super dad to make up for time that he wasn't there with a traditional dad that came home every night?
I think so, and but he was great dad in Atlanta, and we took them. We had a trampoline and we had 4-wheelers, and we would go to the woods, and the kids were around all the time. But this was sort of pre-Stone Cold, and then after he became really famous as Stone Cold, obviously the pressure on him was immense, and I understand that. So when he came home, he had a lot on his mind, and he was also doing other things, I think, like Nash Bridges and making CDs and his music compilation, and Regis and Kathy Lee. Yeah, so on his days off, he was still busy, and then to relax, he picked up hunting again. He did that before I met him, apparently, but he, going out in the woods to unwind. So we kind of didn't see him in the latter years prior to our divorce. He was sort of swamped under, really, and he needed to relax, and therefore we started getting a crack in our relationship, and as you know, you can read, you know, the stories that I've written, where we were both pretty much not seeing each other, and the children as well were not able to see their dad too much then.
Well, you know, to ask, how are the kids' relationship with him to this day now that he's out of the ring and has more time?
That, you know, it could be better.
Yeah. But is there some sort of relationship there? If not, you don't have to answer, obviously.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, things got a little bit messed up, and I came back to the UK, of which I write the reasons for that. And for many years there was no communication, and there's a little bit of communication. Yeah, but it would be nice to have more, and sort of have the girls be able to see him. You know, they don't really get to see him, to be honest.
You know, and you know, at that, you know, leave well enough alone there. You know, you don't need to drag up pay attention.
No, but you see, I would really think that, you know, after this therapeutic, and I take a lot of blame for my own mistakes and, excuse me, my addictions, and the reasons why I was here, and obviously the Deborah was married to him, and that was all a bit of a mess up for me and the kids, and then you go for all these years with no communication, and the part of the therapeutic process is, hey, you know, it'd be really great if we can just, everybody, you know, realize, you know, they could, you know, I see sort of, do you know, like the Hall of Fame, the WrestleManias and stuff like that? Yeah. You see Steve all the time, and you go like, oh man, you know, that would be so cool if Steph or Cass could go to that event with him, you know, or something like that. Just spend some
quality time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you see like wrestlers' kids with in big shows and pay-per-views and that, and you know, it'd be nice if he would take them along with him, something like that.
Yeah, and without, like I said, without disclosing, I know you, because you've mentioned that. I don't think I'm speaking out of tune. That your one child is on the west coast of the States, and he's based on the west coast. You know, why couldn't we make something happen there? You know, and I'm not trying to badmouth
exactly.
You know, why couldn't we make something happen?
Yeah, exactly.
If they're as close as I know they are, but you know, location-wise.
Well, yeah, Stephanie lives in LA, and yeah, you know, it'd be nice to, you know, just see her, have a, you know, a lot more communication. Yeah.
But as a mother, let me ask you that, because we kind of talked about it. How hard is that for you to have your child across the pond, so it's not exactly easy to see her all the time?
Well, we have a FaceTime going just about every day, but you know, Stephanie moved to LA several years ago, but she comes home every 6 months, so you know, she always has a couple of Christmas and around the July I do see her, and obviously we FaceTime just about every day. But exciting for me is the fact that I just got a visa. Now, you know, I'm just going off here, but when I lived and I was married to Steve, obviously I was resident in the United States, so I had a green card. But since I was resident in the UK when I was being really ill, throughout those years of addiction, if you actually leave the States for more than a year, you actually have to abandon your green card because you're actually not resident, so it doesn't apply. And I did have it just about 2 weeks ago, and I'm actually going to be going to LA this Christmas. I'm excited about that.
Oh, yeah, I think you'll enjoy the West Coast.
To Stephanie. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because you said you got an appearance coming up in Charlotte. Does it make it harder for promoters to book you as far as, because, just for documentation and all that fun stuff to make sure? Not that you're doing anything wrong, but, just to keep everything on the up and up.
I didn't have, bearing in mind, Charlotte is my very first time fan fest that I'm doing, and there wasn't any problem booking me for it.
So nothing came up that could have been difficult for, obviously I would assume you have your passport and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, everything is sorted now, so I can, get on a flight and come on over. And I think too, because it's my very first fan fest, I'm I don't know if people remember me or not, but it's sure it's going to be cool going there.
Well, I heard a little birdie mention something about you might be doing something in the Philadelphia region as well, coming up in the fall. Is that true?
Yes, yeah. Although I'm not 100%. I'm still working on that, but that's somewhere I might be at. But I haven't actually. I don't want to say I'm going to be there because I haven't actually finalized it. I think I might be. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see where that lays. But Charlotte's definitely booked. What's the dates on Charlotte?
Yeah. It's August the 4th to the 7th.
Okay, and that's the Mid-Atlantic Greg Price,
yeah.
I believe?
Yeah, Greg Price, yeah.
Okay, yeah, they usually do top-notch shows there, so that is for sure.
Yeah, it's a good one to be the first one to be at.
Yeah, you definitely got yourself a good one because they usually do a pretty good bang-up job in bringing everybody in, and everything's usually pretty smooth sailing from what we heard about that.
Yeah.
But the book is Through the Shattered Glass. Jeanie Clarke, thank you so much for joining us.
Do you know what? I have really, really enjoyed this particular interview. It's been excellent, and the questions were great, and I'm very, very grateful that you invited me, and I think you did a great show. Thank you so much.
With over 30 years of experience and a superb reputation for being a detail-oriented company, Lacey Cleaning has some of the highest work standards in the cleaning business.
That's the fact, Jack!
Whether it's carpet cleaning, tile, grout cleaning, new construction cleanup, rental turnovers, vent and duct cleaning, odor elimination, office and or business cleaning, power washing, residential cleaning, you name it, they do it. Check them out. To contact them today, laceycleaning@gmail.com or call them at 609-709-8536.
That's what I'm talking about.